This is the BG Climbers list for the week ending 11/30/2022. This list is put together every week by Michael Alexander. I'll include links in the description below if you want to take a look at the full list. Let's get into it. So there's a few new stuff this week. First thing is Weather Machine. We've seen this a number of weeks before. Its rating has come up a little bit, so I think post BGG Con it had a ratings bump. Come down, or the new ratings have come down a little bit. It's still doing pretty well. I'm a little based on my personal experience playing the game. I don't feel like this is going to be a top 100 game. Probably top 250, but we'll see. I think some other people are more positive on the game than I was, so it maybe will trend a little bit higher than I was expecting. So number 10, Weather Machine. Number 9, Dorfromantik Das Brettspiel. So this is a game that I guess is based. I think it's based on a video game. Of the video game on your table, yeah. So I think I've seen this video game. I don't remember. Oh, you know what? I may have played this puzzle game a little bit, and it was interesting. I didn't even realize there was a board game coming out with this. So this is the one where I believe you build the tiles out from your thing, and I don't know how the board game works. This is I guess it's a campaign game, video game theme, city building, environmental puzzle. It looks interesting. I kind of wish the artwork looked more like the video game artwork on the cover. So if we look at this, I don't know, I feel like this artwork looks better than the artwork on the tiles, but maybe it's similar. It looks like it contains up to 5 players. Is that right? 1 to 6 players. Fairly lightweight game. Looks pretty good. It may do well. Obviously, this is the German version, Das Brettspiel. I'm assuming they'll call it the game or the board game, I guess. And when it comes to the US, assuming it does, but it's Pegasus Spiel, so it'll probably come to the US. I'm interested in seeing this. Again, it's a lighter weight game. It's probably not going to end up in the top 100. But I do like the fact that there's a decent number of video game IPs that have come to board games, and I guess vice versa. There's digital implementations of board games more often now than there used to be. Interestingly, this is rated best at 2 players, and 1 to 4 players is the community rating. So obviously, maybe the larger player counts don't play that well. So that is Dorfromantik, number 9. Number 8 is not a surprise. It's Wingspan Asia. As I mentioned last week, this is on here because it's also a standalone game. It's a standalone expansion. I think this is going to do incredibly well. Probably, I'm guessing this is going to end up in the top 100 because it's going to get all the ratings from the expansion, from the people that play it as an expansion, and from the people that play it as a standalone game. And Wingspan's incredibly popular. It's a very, I guess it's kind of a heavier game for being how popular it is and how many copies it's sold, which is good to see that a unique theme with a solid design and some great artwork or a great production value in general was able to accomplish what it has. So number 8, Wingspan Asia. Number 7 is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. So it's been a long time since this is still climbing. So if we look at this, right, it was at 7 and at 6. And now it's at 5. So at one point, I thought Twilight Imperium 4th Edition had a chance of being maybe number 2 or maybe even number 1. Obviously, this has started moving up again, probably due to the expansion, which I've played it, and I would say it's not as good as I was hoping for. It drastically compresses the game. So you have, I feel like, well, you definitely have less turns. And by having less turns, your action selection matters more each time you take it. And also, maybe the negotiation matters more in a shorter game. And the strategy, and there's definitely more luck in a shorter game, I feel like. As the game goes a little bit longer, there's a little bit more strategy, and the luck kind of balances out a little bit. For example, the last time we played with the expansion, there was just the right coincidence of steps came up, and someone was able to win on that. I forget, maybe it was turn 6 or round 6. And that was an epic length game. I think if you're playing a standard length game, you're looking at turn 4 or 5, And if you're like playing with a group of people that played this a lot, maybe even turn 3 as a possibility of winning with a standard length game or round 3. So um, there are some cool things in the expansion. I do kind of wish it was more modular. Like you could, I mean, I understand why they didn't do that, but you could put pieces in that you really liked. I assume some people have done that, though. So number 7, Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Oh, I should note that this knocked down Terraforming Mars, which is getting a little bit older. Hasn't had an expansion in a while, and I think the last expansion was kind of mixed reviews anyway. I didn't care for much other than the cards in it, honestly. And I don't think there's any plans for any more Terraforming Mars expansions, but who knows? Terraforming Mars has done really well. I know Ark Nova is kind of the new hot game that's similar to it. I would say I like Terraforming Mars with some of the expansions better than Ark Nova, but it doesn't mean that Ark Nova, maybe in the long run with an expansion or two, won't be a better game. So number 6, Encyclopedia. So this continues to do like a sub 8 rating, which is good, but probably not good enough to get in the top 100. I don't foresee that with type of ratings it's getting here. We looked at this one a couple weeks ago, or over the last couple weeks. I think the artwork is good. It seems like gameplay is a little bit worse than people expected, but that's always a risk with a Kickstarter game. It doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look maybe the amazing game that some people were expecting. So number 6, Encyclopedia. Number 5, Heat Pedal the Metal. So this has actually jumped up a lot. So I was kind of negative on the production value, and I'm not a big fan of racing games. The ones I played, other than Camel Up, I like, but that's more of a betting game than a racing game. It hasn't really captivated me that much. So I think this is doing well. So we'll have to see. Originally, I was thinking this doesn't have a chance of getting in the top 100 because of its maybe like lower production standards to what I was used to. But if the game plays there, which it very well might be, it could be moving up. So we'll keep an eye on this one, and we'll probably be seeing it over the holidays. So number 5, Heat Pedal the Metal. Number 4, Darkest Dungeon, the board game. So this is interesting. This is obviously a Kickstarter. I don't even remember when this came out. So crowdfunding Kickstarter, fully cooperative dungeon crawl. So best with 1 player. So it's best with solo, maybe 2 players. And it's a 90 to 120 minutes. Very complex game. I don't even see any pictures for this thing. So this must have been out a long time ago. Yeah, it's actually been there. I guess episode 2. So there's some people that have gotten their hands on the game. There's some people reselling it, obviously. Let's check the images. So lots of miniatures. These are all painted up. It's a dungeon crawler. I don't feel like I've heard that this thing brings anything drastically new. These are kind of people complaining about the Mythic Games delivery. I mean, and the typos. So Kickstarter's a mess. Minis are great. General production quality is great. So I think maybe there was some people that are upset with the process through Kickstarter. I mean, it's always going to be that way. I think with Kickstarter, you're always taking a risk. I've had great Kickstarters. I've had kind of bad Kickstarters, and I've had okay Kickstarters that I've backed. I've never had a disastrous Kickstarter. I've had ones that are extremely late. I think I still have Kickstarters that are unfulfilled from like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, a long, long time. I just don't. If I back something, it's because I really want to get it at some point, not in any specific time frame, and that I guess keeps my expectations in check with how things work. I mean, you have to remember that most people doing Kickstarters are not business people; they're board game people, and I think designing a good board game and running a business and successfully shipping a Kickstarter are typically 2 completely different sets of skills, and having one may not mean that you have the other. So, especially if you haven't done a Kickstarter before, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go into this, and I think that sometimes people get in over their head in terms of what they thought they could accomplish in terms of the business side of things. So anyway, it sounds like it's a dungeon crawler. Probably not going to be in the top 100 just because there's a lot of good dungeon crawlers, and I think this is kind of this is going to succeed based on the video game IP, not so much on the board game geek ratings. So number 4, Darkest Dungeon. Number 3, Wayfarers of South Tigris. So this one, I don't think I've seen any reviews yet. Maybe I have. The game looks incredible, as it always does. It's one of the heavier games from Shem Phillips, so I think that's going to tend to propel it up the list a little bit more. I mean, like Paladins of the West Kingdom did really well. It's one of his heavier games. And Architects of the West Kingdom obviously did extremely well. So I do want to get this played. I still need to play Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I played all the other West Kingdom ones. I finally played Raiders in the North Sea recently, and I feel like this game is going to be very interesting. I think it's going to do well. I think we have to wait a little bit, though, to see if it's going to be a top 100 game. So number 3, Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Number 2, Clank Catacombs. So this game is the latest Clank game, and it is rocketing up the list. I feel like with is PAX Unplugged this week? I think it is. PAX Unplugged happening, this is going to get a lot of play. I'm assuming Direwolf is going to be there, and they're probably going to sell a ton of copies of it at PAX Unplugged. So this game is a tile-based game, I guess, with the Clank mechanisms on top of it. Deck building, delayed purchase, interesting. I don't know. Maybe I need to see what's new about this. And you can include cards from previous Clank expansions, which is kind of interesting, right? And you create the dungeon as you go. This does look like a game that, like, I would say Clank, non-Legacy Clank. We're playing Clank Legacy actually right now. I like the Legacy experience. I'm not a huge fan of Clank itself, but maybe this dungeon exploration and dungeon building aspect would make me more interested in the whole Clank mechanisms around it. So I'm interested to see what this game is. I'd probably need to watch some reviews. And since it's Clank, it's going to do well. It's going to sell a lot of copies. And it does look like the people that have played it seem to really like the game so far. It's only maybe 90 ratings, 80 ratings so far, but I'm sure we'll see this in the coming weeks. So Clank Catacombs, number 2. And number 1, Splendor Duel. So we've seen this Splendor Duel show up a couple times. This is the 2-player Splendor game, which I think was a long time coming. A lot of people like Splendor. I think a lot of people even played it with 2 players. But having a 2-player version of it that includes Splendor-esque mechanisms, I expect it to do pretty well. 2-player games tend to not make it onto the top 100 unless they're heavier, like War of the Ring or Star Wars Rebellion. But we'll keep an eye on this because Splendor is a very popular board game. Maybe Splendor Duel is going to show up there as well. So there you have it. That is the BGG Climbers list for the week ending 11/30/2022. If you enjoyed this video, please like and please subscribe, and please take a look at our other videos. Thank you.